as I intimated a little bit in conversation with the kids, the vine and the branches, I mean, it makes sense to us, right? We live in rural Iowa, and dirt makes sense to us, right? I mean, we know the depth of the need of a rich and healthy soil. We know that sometimes you prune things to make them bear more fruit, to be healthier. I haven't ever I'm not good at this. I won't say I haven't done it, but I'm not good at doing it all the time. Is like prune my tomatoes back, so they'll have healthier, bigger tomatoes. And I'm like, I'd rather have more, I guess, because I don't go out there and pick all the little suckers off, But sometimes our vines, if you have vines or flowers, my flowers out in the back are pretty much like the flowers out here. Just leaving them in the ground through the winter, even though they don't always look so pretty, there's a story behind them, and they're dropping those seeds. They're providing a space of shelter for critters, that need to live to the next year. They are providing new seed to be nurtured and brought to life next year, so that we have a spread of flowers. And when they're like that, as they decompose, they also bring a sustenance, a sustaining culture of moist, enriched soil for things to grow better in. So when I think of the vine and the branches, I think of the way that we sometimes get pruned back, this scripture is so familiar, and yet in my everyday life, I don't stop and think, oh, that's God pruning me back so I can produce more. Instead, does anybody stomp at God? I'm like, oh, God, why? I had it all planned out. It was going really smooth. I had this grand plan, and look what you've done. Look what you've done. But you know what? More often than not, so all the time, when I get through those periods, and I can look back, and I can have my 20/20 hindsight, right? I see the glory of God in that. I see how God turned me from doing to doing more things in his name for his glory. Because that's what it's about. We all have our own agendas, right? And God's got his. And if we call upon God, God's plan is always better than ours. But the thing is, we have to convince ourselves of that first. We have to open ourselves to the possibility of what God might have planned for us. And when we use Christ for that beacon of light, when we use Christ as that branch, that vine that just goes straight, and the branches don't need to, are being controlled by God, and that vine is going straight, and we just have to stay in connection with that vine. On the days when we're stomping our feet at God and growling at God, maybe instead we take a deep breath, and I'll need you to help me with this because I'm not very good at it. Taking that deep breath and just kind of going, okay, show me what you got, God. Show me what I'm supposed to be doing, because evidently this isn't it. And I know that because you have pulled me out of that path I was on and put me on another. Believe me, I had a grand plan. It wasn't standing here. So God has plans that we can never imagine he has for us. And yet, how many times do we buffer him away? How many times do we say, that's all nice, God. That's great. I think I'll do it this way instead. This seems to make a little more sense. Because what did our scripture and our songs as well, if we give ourselves that covenant prayer, I give myself to you just as you have given yourself to me. And so because I am in you and you are in me, together we are more. Together we are better, which I say all the time, but really we are. We are better with Christ. We are better with the community of believers. We are better with a bigger, larger community, our community outside these walls. We are better because we follow the vine and we keep coming back to it. We let ourselves be pruned. We let God pull the suckers off. We let ourselves be fertilized with the rich love of God. That is what brings us to this place. That is what brings us to faith. It's what brings us to this gift of bread and cup. It's what brings us to a place where we can take stabs at, not perfection. Remember, we're on our way to perfection, another John Wesley saying. We never quite get there, but we have to have a goal, right? And our goal to perfection, it's always starting out with the best intent. And knowing that we might veer off of that, but to remember there's something there to bring us back. And maybe the first thing that brings us back isn't Jesus. Maybe the first thing that brings us back is our neighbor. Maybe the first thing that brings us back is a family member or somebody we used to sit beside in church or somebody that we used to go to youth group with. Maybe it's those folks who God is calling us to bring back to the table, whether in this space or in another space where we can share the love of Christ in word and in song. But God calls us to bring each and every one to him in love and in care. So today, as we come together for this, to celebrate our sacrament of Holy Communion, might we remember within ourselves what it is that draws us to God. Might we spend a minute or two, the rail is a little full today, but there might be room yet. Stand or kneel at the rail. Go back to your seats and pray for a moment. Who is it that God is calling us to be in connection with? That even if they don't come into this worship space, that they reconnect with God for this year, that their life changes because they have opened their mind to who God is in them and with them.